What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be working on a Nakiri wheel. A Nakiri with a little bit of a different design to it. And here I have 1084 and 15 and 20, and we're going to be doing a 64 layer Damascus. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward build. I'm going to do alternating layers, and we're going to weld up our billet and make sure it's nice and sealed. I don't know how everybody else does their billets, but I like to do a weld on the corners and then a weld in the center, depending on the thickness of the actual billet. The thicker it is, I'll do a tiny weld down the center, probably like 2 or 3 layers on the top and on the bottom. And then afterwards I'll spray it down with some WD-40. That way it seeps in between the layers and helps protect it from oxygen. So this is going to be a pretty standard Damascus. As I said before, I'm just going to be forge welding and then restacking. I'm starting with 16 layers, and I'm just going to work it down to about a 1-inch thickness and a 2 inches across on the width. That way I can have a nice consistent thickness all the way through, and I can make sure I can restack it fairly easy. I don't like to go too thin because it distorts the layers a little bit too much and it becomes a bit of a hassle. So I like to work it down to about 1-inch thickness. That's a pretty good spot where I can cut it and stack it specifically for these lower layers. So once I got it to appropriate size, I straighten it out and I clean it up with my grinder and a diamond disc that I use for just about everything. The reason why I like the diamond disc is because it creates very little dust as compared to an abrasive disc that, as the abrasive cuts it, it also breaks apart and it creates double, triple, quadruple the dust. So here I am restacking it and basically doing the same thing I did before. Whenever trying to get higher layer counts, it's basically just the same process over and over again. You cut, you rinse, you repeat. And so with this, I will have right around 64 layers for my billet. One thing I really enjoy about doing this is I really enjoy watching the scale fall, especially on the sides. And the more you forge it down, you can actually see the individual layers as it starts crusting and coming off, all the oxides on the sides whenever you press it. I think it's pretty cool and I really like it. It's enjoyable to see. I don't know, it's like it satisfies that itch for some reason. So here I'm doing the same thing and I'm squaring it up. I'm trying to get it down to right around the same 1-inch thickness that I normally do, and I'm working it down. These are my 2-inch kiss blocks and I'm using them to make sure that my billet stays 2 inches wide. The reason why I like 2 inches wide is because that's basically the standard size of the material that I use. So if I get it 2 inches wide, then let's say I want to in the future take a piece of this Damascus and add on more layers, I can do that by adding extra material and it's already the appropriate size. I don't have to cut it down, I don't have to waste on material. So here I'm working it down. I ultimately decided to work it down to 3/4. That way I had a longer piece of material, a longer billet at the end. That way I can divide it into the different pieces that I need. Obviously this is more material than what I would need for a Nakiri, and the rest of the material I use for other projects, like another project I have for you guys in the future. So here I'm cleaning it up with the grinder again, and I'm just gonna clean up the portion that I need for this build. With my material cut off, I'm going to start forging out my Nakiri. The reason why I decided to go with the Nakiri is just because I like the square shape to it, though this one doesn't really come out exactly the way I wanted to, and that is just because I made a little bit of a mistake on the forging. Not really a big deal, but I didn't really have enough material for the width that I wanted, and I kind of prioritized length over width. But partially of the way into the build, I kind of decided that I wanted to make it a bit of a curved cleaver, but it never really got the width for a cleaver, so that's why I'm kind of calling it a Nakiri versus calling it anything else. I do like the final shape that I have to it. I really like the look of it and the way it rocks, but I wouldn't call it a traditional Nakiri. Here I'm forging in my handle, and the handle I'm leaving it a little bit rough, and I'll just portion out whatever I need afterwards. Here I'm hitting it with the crossbeam, and I'm trying to get as much width as I can. That way I can make it a bit taller. Right now it's probably like around 2 inches, and I'm trying to stretch it out as much as I can. I end up getting about 2.5 inches, closer to 3 inches. I do run into the issue where the front of the knife is a bit thicker than what I have towards the center, towards the portion closest to the handle, so I end up with a wider space up front than on the back, which isn't really much of an issue. Thinking back, I might have been able to use that material for a little bit more length instead of width, but overall I do like the shape I end up with. One thing that I did notice while I was forging is that I could definitely use another cross peen hammer, but this time have it be a straight peen, not a cross peen. I could use a straight peen hammer, and that way it would make forging in my notch on my handle for my tang easier, and kind of make it a little bit easier for forging in the width versus the way I do it now, which is just a press. If I have a straight peen, I can control it a little bit more than the control I have here on the press. So I'll definitely put that on my to-do list to go ahead and order me one of these days. Currently I am ordering all the parts to build a new forge because my forge is absolute dog crap, and I will show you once I end up starting that video. I'll show you my forge. I don't really show it on the videos, but yeah, it's pretty torn up. So I am ordering all the materials to make a new forge, and hopefully they arrive soon. It is a pretty long process because of the drying time, so I don't know when I'll have a video out for it, but hopefully in the next week or two I can start on getting all that ready, because I could really use a new forge. As for this knife build, I kind of just followed the shape of the material. I didn't really do too much removing. I kind of liked the way it looked. I only removed the parts that actually needed to be removed to be able to make it a functioning knife. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the design. It's not a really traditional straight Nakiri. It's more like a curved cleaver, but it doesn't have the width for a cleaver, so I'm kind of hesitant to call it a cleaver. Overall, the shape is pretty nice, and it has a little bit more rock than what a regular cleaver would have, but I kind of just felt like it needed to have that rock. Kind of just sat there in place already, so I kind of just wanted to leave it there and see what the knife felt like afterwards. Fortunately, since I followed basically the lines of what I had forged, I didn't spend too much time on the grinding, just truing up all these weird jagged areas that are a byproduct of the forging. Afterwards, I made sure to clean up all the scale. The grinder, the disc, it takes off material, but it doesn't take all of it. And I could take all of the material, but I'd be there grinding and grinding and grinding, and it's easier just to take off the top layer and just grind it with the 2x72 afterwards. The top layer is really that thick, harder layer. That is what tears up the belts. Afterwards, the belts eat through it pretty quickly. All the material underneath is significantly softer. The grind on this knife was a little bit challenging just because of the fact that I had it a little bit thicker towards the front than towards the back. But afterwards, I ended up fixing it with my surface grinder, and I gave myself a nice even surface reference so I can work from there. I don't want to grind it too thin right now because I'm getting ready for heat treat. After heat treat, that's when I'll grind in my bevels and make sure everything's nice and straight and the way it should be. During this process, I did do some moving around in my shop, so now I have my drill press and a bandsaw in a different location, and I added some more storage. That way I can make sure I get all my stuff together. Alright guys, so we are out of the temper. It's looking really good. You can see the patterning in there popping out. We do have a slight warp, but I'll fix that with the carbide peen. It's basically like from here So it's not too bad. It's definitely a quick fix. And we're gonna go on ahead and start on our finished grind. It's gonna be a nice little rocker, cleaver, the curie thing. I don't know, it looks pretty cool. I always see knives like this, just a little bit bigger, that they use on those fish cutting videos in different countries, where they take the fish and they're just like, so I figured I'd make one kind of like that, but I was hoping to make it a little bit longer, but this is as long as I got with the material I had. So maybe I'll make a bigger machete type thing in the future. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. I did have a little bit of warping towards the tang right there in that area where I'm hitting in. It does become a bit of an issue. Even though I fix it here, I go back multiple times. I just don't record them, but I do go back multiple times to make sure that that area is straight towards the finished part of the knife. Because no matter how much I peen it over and I hit it with that carbide, it likes to kind of pull back towards that direction. And anybody that makes knives, whenever you do your finished grind, I'm pretty sure you notice that whenever you remove material from a certain area, another area likes to bow or move. So you have to be very, very careful how you're removing material on your knife to make sure that the knife doesn't bow or curve in one direction or another. And I had that issue quite a bit on this knife, where the edge would be straight and then I'd grind a little bit and I'd check it and it'd start bowing to one side. Then I had to grind on the other side to fix it. It's a bit of a pain, and I tempered it multiple times and I did all kinds of stuff, but that is something that persists. And on some knives it's a little bit worse than other knives. This one just happened to be a little bit worse. Most knives that I do nowadays, I don't really run into that issue because I'm more careful about my grind. I kind of keep it as even as I possibly can. But some of these knives, no matter what I do, they'll keep moving around as I grind. Fortunately, I don't run into the issue that much because I actually pay more attention to it nowadays. But before, I definitely, my first couple knives, horrendous, man. They were warped like crazy and I didn't know why. Alright guys, so we have the piece hand sanded up to 800, and I have these two pieces right here. Got sent to me by Mike, and I'm not sure what kind of wood they are, but they smell like pine, so they're very piney smelling. So I'm assuming it's going to be pine. It's stabilized and dyed this purple color. I like it. I'm going to be using it, pairing it with my liners, and let's get everything set up. So as I had brought up previously in the video, this is a new toolbox, and I have my drill press and a small bandsaw on it as well, and that is because I moved it around, and I ended up moving over my hydraulic press away from the forge just to keep it from overheating a little bit, and making sure it lasts a little bit longer without, you know, trying to stall because of the heat. And so I added this toolbox, and as you can see right now, the lighting isn't the best, and that's because I just haven't added lighting to that area. I never needed lighting before, so I'll eventually get that fixed. And with that, we move on to our handle construction. Now everything's prepped. All I gotta do is glue it up, and I'm using G-Flex for the glue up. I ordered some 5-minute epoxy, same brand with the whatever brand this G-Flex is, I forgot off the top of my head, and that's just in case I run into issues where I need to glue something up quick. But this glue up was overnight, so I prefer to use the G-Flex because it gives me plenty of time. By the time I finish this, clamp it up, go inside, and go about my night and go to sleep, once I wake up in the morning, it's perfectly dried and cured. So I definitely like to go about this way. So I'd like to take a moment to ask you guys, if you like these videos, if you like my builds, and you want to help support the channel, you can do that by liking, by commenting down below what you think about the knife, or just saying hello. All the comments are welcome, and I try to reply to as many as possible. Most of them I reply to within the first few days. Afterwards, it kind of gets lost in all the comments that I get throughout all the videos. but for the most part I am pretty good about answering comments. So if you'd like to do that as a way to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. You can also support the channel by subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed. Somewhere along the lines of like 90% of my viewers or 80% of my viewers, something like that, are viewers and not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, do me the favor of subscribing if you want to. It's free. It's a great way to help support the channel and help it grow, and it helps open new doors for the possibility of collaborations and all that good stuff in the future. And if you want to help support the channel in a monetary fashion, you do so by going to my online store, where you can buy this knife right here that's available right now for sale before anybody else gets it. Not long ago I did a knife similar to this one, but it was a higher layer count and I wanted to see what it would look like in a lower layer count. And I am very happy with the way it looks. I'm very happy with the handle. It looks great. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.